Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and we are talking about a breaking news update for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake or Remaster, or nothing at all. After this news update today, it's sort of in flux. This information is fresh from the desk of Jason Schreier, so for those of you who are uninitiated, he's one of the leading forces behind breaking stories in our industry, and quite frankly, I think he's the main reason that Kotaku stays relevant to some degree. Just a few days ago, he broke a story saying that Battlefront had a canceled spin-off, and before that, we were talking about the likes of PlayStation games coming over to PC. Essentially, people have sort of bought into a lot of his breaking stories because he has reliable sources, and I don't really remember the last time he was wrong. So some of you may recall, based off this video, that back in about late January, there was a report that a Knights of the Old Republic remake was back on the table. And of course, I've been on top of it ever since, trying to cover any bit of information that's popped up and thoroughly discuss it with all of you here in the KOTOR community. But recently, Jason Schreier put out a tweet that caught my interest, and a couple of my viewers tagged me in it, so I do appreciate that. So I actually reached out to him, but let's take a look at the tweet in question first. When delivering the information that EA canceled a Battlefront spin-off, someone said, "So no remaster for the Old Republic," to which Jason said, "Let me get back to you on that one." Now, time for some lore. Jason and I used to butt heads a lot back in 2015. We didn't really get along at all. One of the driving forces behind that for his frustration with me was because I sort of just took his tweets and I'd speculate on things. He said, "Just reach out to me. It's that simple." But naturally, things just got out of hand. We both got annoyed with each other and we never really communicated after that point. So I took this as an opportunity to make up for lost time, and I reached out to Jason about his tweet and said, "Hey man, I'm kind of trying to make up for that time I was speculating about your tweets. Is there any chance you could tell me more about this?" And he was more than willing to share pretty much a lot of what he knew thus far. So let's get into the email he sent me, which he gave me full permission to share with you guys, and then we'll discuss afterwards what this can mean for a KOTOR remake. Some context, and feel free to put this entire statement in your video. I don't want to share anything I've heard until 1, I'm 100% sure, or as close to 100% sure as possible that it's true, and 2, I have enough context to give readers the full picture. So once this information broke about a KOTOR remake, everyone was sort of tagging Jason Schreier, being like, "Dude, what do you know?" Because he can usually give you what you want to know without an official statement coming from the company. He essentially eliminates the waiting game a lot of the times for us, which is very helpful, but I don't think he mingles in breaking stories about games that are unannounced. He said he didn't want to ruin that stuff, but that's kind of like the gray area for it, I think. Moving on with the message, so say hypothetically, I did know there was some sort of KOTOR game in development at a non-EA studio. I might not know whether it was just a remaster or a full-on remake, and I might not have all the details on just how far into production it was, whether it was even possible, etc. All right, pause there. This is big. This is really, really big, because we're talking about the KOTOR remake maybe not coming from EA, right? Our biggest fear, I think, with this remake was that, number one, the story would change. Number 2, BioWare is not really what they used to be, and it was assumed that BioWare Austin would be working on this. 3, EA's involved, and we don't know if they're going to give it the Jedi Fallen Order treatment. So there were 3 big things working against it. While the first one does remain somewhat relevant, 2 and 3 can almost go out the window as it stands based off this report, provided we do find out this information is 100% true. If the KOTOR remake has 0 EA involvement, I will drink hot sauce on camera. I will do it. I will do it to start off a news update. I will do it to some video. I will do it. Because I can't even fathom EA saying, "Here, take the license. We're going to have 0 involvement. We don't want really anything to do with it." I mean, that's just like best case scenario. I couldn't ask for anything more. You know, I always victimize myself as a KOTOR fan, but for once, are we getting what's due to us? Oh my gosh. Now, also in the message, he mentions that it could be either a remaster or a full-on remake. Now, these terms get conflated pretty frequently, even though they're 2 totally different things. So for those who are unaware, let me explain. A remaster is sort of the same exact game. We'll take Vanquish or Bayonetta coming to PS4 recently in that package. They're the same exact games, but they're touched up for modern consoles. So maybe like better frame rate, better resolution, but it's not like a whole-on different game where we could take Resident Evil 2, which just came out late last year, or the Resident Evil 3 remake coming out at the beginning of April, where these are from the ground up brand new games, completely restructured with new mechanics, new movement, new levels, brand new content. Everything is from the ground up new because it's a remake. You are recreating everything about that game. A remaster is just essentially porting it over and touching it up in a lot of ways. Now, if it's a remaster, we'd probably see it a lot sooner. If it's a remake, that may take a lot of time and could really leave this game in limbo, sort of like what it's been for, I think, the last 3 years at this point, where this story has been on and off, on and off. With that all in mind, we have to consider the Black Series lightsabers. They just announced that Revan's getting one, but there's no film announced. Now, Star Wars Celebration isn't for a couple of months, where I personally predict we're going to hear a lot more about the Old Republic returning. I think it's inevitable at this point. They are ramping up for something. It's just a matter of time. So do they want to do a remaster and sort of align it with a movie because that can happen a little bit quicker, or do they want to do a remake and sort of establish a whole new The Old Republic? Personally, I'd take a remaster, get 1 and 2 out on current consoles, touch them up. 2 is already touched up, as you guys have seen in the gameplay in the background. This game looks great. It runs great now on modern PCs. So if you can give that treatment to the first one, I think you're in good condition right there to sell that as a package. However, I would not be against a whole new Old Republic game, whether it be a remake or a third entry would be kind of wild. Jason's email wraps up saying, I wouldn't want to report definitively that something like that is in development if it might never actually come to fruition. Look back over the past few years and you'll see a lot of other KOTOR reports that got everyone's hopes up and then turned out to be false. So I'm going to hold off on reporting anything until I have all the proper context, which hopefully I'll be able to do at some point in the future. Can't make any promises though. And so that essentially ties up his message that he sent me. So big thank you to Jason for participating, helping me out, allowing me to pretty much create this entire video and discussion on the future of KOTOR. Now, I think personally that it's going to be natural that if they're going to be making a line of movies, they're going to have some type of game tying into it. The reason I say that is because the Old Republic is, I'd like to say, not as recognizable, right? It's not like the new sequel trilogy. I think a lot of people are going to look at it and say, okay, it's Star Wars, but what makes the Old Republic special is it's a little more gritty and different in terms of weapons and armor that's worn. It's a lot more political. And so I think a lot of people are going to be like, what is this? And a game could help make it feel, A, more important, give it that feeling of like, it's not just a Star Wars spin-off, which, you know, brand identity is a huge, important thing. And while it may sound funny for us, because we're gamers, right? Like, we like KOTOR. We know what KOTOR is. Quite honestly, I think it's the best Star Wars game ever made. But that's in our corner, right? We have to think of the millions and millions of other people who have never even heard of KOTOR. They're going to be like, oh, what? Is that a type of food? What's a KOTOR, right? So we have to consider that aspect, and I think a game can always help propel that part of the universe. Books, of course, already exist on the Old Republic. I don't want to act like consumers are totally unaware, but I think ultimately it can aid in making a game alongside it, whereas the new sequel trilogy didn't really need that. Of course, I think Battlefront would add Old Republic stuff as well. I think it would be so sick if they added Old Republic armor along the lines of the Republic and Sith, Revan being a hero in the game, Bastila being a hero in the game. Oh, Lord have mercy on me. Oh my God. When you really look at it, toys, movies, inevitable. Games, it just makes sense. So I feel something's coming. Granted, I'm being an optimist here. You guys probably know that, but I think it just makes sense that you want to have a game aligned with this whole new part of Star Wars you're introducing. If you're already doing toys and movies, and there's books, of course, games is sort of the last step. So that's just my take on the information presented to me. I hope I've given you guys something to really think about and work with here today for the future of KOTOR. We're close, man. We're close, guys. You gotta believe. Gotta believe. We're so close. With all the information out of the way now, I just want to take a brief moment to thank you guys. I know it may seem kind of random and out of nowhere, but as I think about it, I mean, it's been such a long road that you've all been on with me for KOTOR, and it's not over yet by any stretch, but it's just kind of crazy between the Apeiron mod and, of course, talking about a third entry or a remake or a remaster. There's just been so many stories that have floated around, and you guys have always been here to support those videos. Some of my best performing videos of the last year have been KOTOR related. And you guys have no idea how much that hypes me up, because it's what I truly love in gaming, and that's what this is all about. So just wanted to give you guys a brief thank you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I leave it in your ever so capable hands. Let me know what you think of this information in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Big thank you to all of the patrons who continue to support the content variety and allow me to help break stories like this. It's a pretty cool feeling, not gonna lie. All right, I'll talk with all of you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.